What was the initial draw for working on the series? Were you a history buff? Is there that interest? Or?
I mean, this question is always like, I think it presumes that actors have more of a choice in the jobs they take than they actually do.
Mhm.
I think most of us, if it seems like you're going to be able to get a job, you really seriously consider it just because it's possible. And yeah, I mean, I there's also when you try on a piece of material, when I audition for this job, and you sort of find out in that process, and I like auditioning for that reason. You find out in that process whether it suits you, whether it sits in your body sort of comfortably. And I was initially skeptical, but surprised to find that I actually liked playing Julian's language, and it sort of came. It felt easy. It felt playable and fun. Um, and so my initial misgivings about whether I would sort of work in his world, because I think of myself, as I am as a person, as a kind of like, you know, uh, country vulgarian. But in and Julian's world is so refined, but
Mhm.
fortunately, I have trained all my life in how to fake it, I guess.
Yeah, that's your job, I guess. It's good that you're good at it. It's interesting because when you step into something like this, like if it's sci-fi or something, it depends, on what the genre is. But this is one that you really have to completely transform, not just your delivery, but also, your mannerisms. People just didn't move the same. You don't see someone doing TikTok dances in the background. It's a very kind of, you have to kind of be all in on this part on this performance.
Yeah, no, that's right. I think it is. It's sort of just before the era where we really have any kind of moving images of how people walked and how they sounded. And we have,
Mhm.
which I think we do have recordings of people's voices, but often they were people who were performing. They were they're playing to a crowd, and so you don't have a sense of sort of what natural speech really felt like. But yes, it is necessary to get a whole lot, not just a single performance, but a whole ensemble of people all committing to the same world and the same sort of values and the same way of moving and speaking, in order to create that place. And yeah, I mean, it is a little, the past in a certain way is as foreign as the future, right? But it's not the future. You have more latitude. I think in the past we have some sense of what the record was and what previous images, what previous fictions have led us to expect of this world. And so we have a certain, there are certain laws we have to obey, I guess.
Yeah, even if not historically 100% accurate, it's got to
Of
be
course.
read by the audience as accurate, which is,
Yeah, indeed. We have to be credible, if not entirely
yes,
accurate. Yeah.
there you go. And George and Bertha can be pretty ruthless, yet viewers are still drawn to them. They want to root for them. What is it about them that you feel like the audience is attracted to?
I mean, I think that they are just so down for each other. There is, I think that their partnership is a true one. They are truly intimate with each other, and I think that, and they truly know each other, and they are very committed to sort of seeing each other's lives be fulfilling and satisfying and happy. And I think despite all the other awful things they do, that relationship is compelling. And of course, they are also dynamic people. They are driving the action. They're the people making the choices. They have a tremendous amount of agency and money and power. And, I mean, whether it's Succession or Billions or any of these other shows, there's, as much as we might judge those people or even hate them, they're compelling. They're fun to watch because they are making the world with their decisions.
Yeah, I always find it strange that we can disconnect all of the less attractive or just plain sometimes evil acts of people and still root for them. And you're like, wait, why? What's wrong with me? Like, Breaking Bad was one, The Sopranos. This
Yeah.
is the same thing. Where you're like, they fit into that group of, a marriage. Having a good marriage is one thing, but
Right.
like, you're kind of looking against your own self-interest when you're rooting for these types.
No question, but I also think that is, um, the wonderful, for one thing, that's just good writing, because a good writer
Mhm.
can humanize, I think, almost any character and make you, if not sympathize with them, at least empathize with them. But for another thing, I mean, that's, I on a sort of Pollyannish or sentimental level, like that's why I think a lot of us do what we do, which is we want to be able to have insight into the experiences of other people, and especially people that we don't agree with, or uh, you know, even oppose. And I think that is actually, there aren't many things that you can say entertainment or art actually do to affect the lives of other human beings. But I think if that is one thing you can say, is that it can give us insight into the
Mhm.
humanity of people who seem quite foreign on the, who seem quite different
Yeah.
than us.
And that's fun both sides for people who you don't know who are better than you think. And we have this, you know, stereotypes and prejudice. Hopefully not. We don't, but people do.
Yeah,
But it
sure.
allows you to see
We
into
all
that
do.
world. But then also to say, wait a second, my boss isn't the jerk I thought he was. It's like there's more
Right.
to them. There's more.
There's something he's coming from that's making him behave the way that he's behaving.
Yeah.
There's misery and pain in his life that's driving his cruelty. And I think that once we know that, it gives us a deeper understanding of, it gives us a greater capacity for compassion, and maybe even like a different way to try to solve our problems, which I think is useful.
And in the second season, that marriage does have some challenging moments. And there's the big moment where George turns down the not so subtle advances uh, and decides not to cheat. When you first read that scene, did you ever think that he would? Did you ever think, well, this is where my character goes downhill, like in that aspect?
Uh, yeah, I thought it was a tricky scene to play. It was a tricky scene. It was like the nuances of how that scene worked were going to be really important in terms of keeping the audience with Bertha and George's relationship going past that scene.
Mhm.
I was more concerned with, I don't know. I mean, there's a world in my mind where George just kind of says, like, makes Turner disappear, like vaporizes her somehow, because it's so impertinent, and it's so like sort of threatening to the thing he holds most dear, his marriage,
Mhm.
that he wouldn't countenance it. Um, but I think the choice we made, and obviously the latitude it's given us for storytelling in the second season, was really the right one. I loved seeing Kelly Curran's Turner come back in her new with her new status and power.
And do you feel your characters become a better person since the start of the show?
No, I don't think so. I think he's um he is like a pretty ruthless strategic thinker. I think he has a certain amount of honor, and I think that he has an ethical code that he abides by. I mean, we just had this confrontation, the most recent episode that aired. There's a confrontation with George's workers at his steel factory,
Mhm.
and George makes the choice not to fire on his workers. And I think, that isn't the Homestead strike is the most direct comparison, and to the scene we depict, and it's not accurate. But that was a much messier situation. There was violence on the other side. It sort of got out of control. There was a willingness to use violence on the part of Frick, who was actually running who was there on the scene on behalf of Carnegie. Um, so we certainly didn't hew very closely to the truth, but we also created a situation where it was really Manichaean. Like, either George executes dozens of workers in cold blood, or he doesn't. And I think that is a bridge too far, and would have been a bridge too far for a lot of these guys. Um, so, so yes, I think George is just as ruthless as he was on day one, and just as loving towards his family, his wife, as he was on day one.
But still calculated. Got to make
Oh,
the right
absolutely. I think,
decisions.
yeah, yeah. I think. I mean, if he has gifts, I think they're gifts of. He's a strategic thinker. He's a really brilliant strategic thinker. He sees both short and long term. He sees any possibility for gaining leverage over someone or getting an advantage, um, and yeah, I think that he is extremely lucid and cunning, and I think he is not without boundary, but I think they're they're pretty capacious.
So that you kind of maybe named one, but what are two qualities you appreciate about George or you respect, and two that you dislike?
I mean, obviously, I don't agree with his sort of resource hoarding, worker oppressing ways. I think that's um, I think he's sort of set an awful template for American capitalism. He and his fellows, or his real life analogs. I definitely appreciate his love for particularly his daughter, and his desire to see her not just achieve sort of social position, but also achieve real happiness. I think his hope is that by finding a partner for her that she truly loves, she'll be able to have the life that he has found for himself. Because I think the place, I think building this business and sort of having all this power in the world that George has, it's part of his makeup. It's part of what, it's something he's kind of driven to do. That ambition is sort of inherent to him, but I think the things that really bring him happiness and peace are his family. And so he wants that for Gladys. And I think that is lovely. And I think it's possible, continuing along George gets to be this kind of amalgam of Vanderbilt and Gould, and I think in this season, to some extent, Carnegie. And Carnegie, was a guy who he came from poverty, and he knew what poverty was, and he made real philanthropic efforts in his life that I think did matter. I mean, it doesn't absolve him. It doesn't, it doesn't balance the scales for all of the, just the sheer theft of wages and various other things. But I think it does. You do have to sort of put it in the balance, and maybe George will sort of go down.
Anytime a character is a good parent and sincerely, authentically good parent, it always allows you to kind of, or for me, to look past some of the
Yes.
terrible things they do.
Yeah, same.
Let's wrap with an easy one. 3 words to describe George Russell.
Big bad daddy.
Wow, I didn't expect that, but I absolutely love that. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the season wraps up and continuing this journey. Have a great day. Bye now. Thank you.